Okay, so I've shown you how to set up a Zoom meeting in Zoom directly. Now I'm going to show you how to do it through the web version of Zoom, which I personally find much easier because you can do a lot of things like change the reoccurring meeting. So if I go to Zoom, I've already signed into this earlier, so sign in with your details. When you're in the Zoom sign in, I would go to meetings. Then you've got the upcoming meetings in the calendar, so you can see the ones that I've set up for supervision is always coming up telling me when the days are for the supervision meetings. If I want to create a new meeting, I just come over here to the right hand side and select schedule a meeting. This will pop up with some details for scheduling my meeting, and this is where I get a lot more details. So again, the topic could be fortnightly supervision. I can also add a description, so I could say this is a bi-weekly supervision session for and whatever you want to say in your description. You don't have to do that, that's just an option. Again, I can choose the date. So for example, if I want to schedule this for next Tuesday, so Tuesday the 20th of September, and I can choose the timeline. So I can say, for example, it will be at 6 o'clock. So let's choose, you always choose the time, and then you choose whether it's PM or AM. So this is slightly different to the Zoom directly, so you can choose PM or AM. The duration again is 1 hour, 2 hours, for example, so it's for 2 hours. Then time zone is always in London. And here's where you can do the reoccurrence. So reoccurrence, I can say it's every day, or I can say it's weekly or monthly. So I would say for this one, because it's every 2 weeks, I choose weekly, and then I say repeat every 2 weeks. So that will give me bi-weekly meeting. So that's weekly every 2 weeks. If I was to do that for monthly, I can make it monthly every month, or every 2 months, or every 3 months, for example, and it will always work out the number of reoccurrences. So if I choose again weekly and I say it's every 2 weeks, this is now going to give me a default of 6 occurrences. So that's always the default, but we can change that below. So again, you can choose the date the day that it occurs on. So it's always going to be a Tuesday. It's going to be weekly, but every 2 weeks. I can have a date when it ends, or I can say end after a number of occurrences. So by default, you can have 10 occurrences, but you can change that, or you can do by end of a date. I would suggest do it by an end date, and you can put it something way in the future. So you can choose, say, I don't know, June, sorry, not the 24th, June the 25th. So I would have this every 2 weeks, 47 occurrences, and ending by the 25th of June 2024. So that gives you complete control over the reoccurrence. So you've got weekly, every 2 weeks, end date. I wouldn't bother with registration because that's again a login thing. A template is for specific meeting templates if you've got breakout rooms and things like that, but don't need to use that. For security, I would always have a passcode. If you want to have a waiting room to allow people to join and then you let them in only when you're ready, then you can have a waiting room, but I always automatically for a supervision turn this off. Again, authentication to join, more of a business thing that you can use for full security for only allowing people from certain businesses join, or authentication through Zoom, but I wouldn't use that. Then you've got the section again for the video, so you can have the host on or off and participation on or off. So that means that when somebody clicks and joins the Zoom meeting, their video camera will be set either off by default, so they have to turn it on when they're ready, or you can make it default that it's automatically turned on for them when they join the meeting. My preference as a host or a participant is always to make it off so that I have the option to turn it on when I feel I'm ready. Audio, I would always use telephone and both, and then the dial-in, always change it to UK. So here you can look for United Kingdom. So just type in United Kingdom, select it, untick United States, and that will then give you dial-in codes from United Kingdom. Other options, I would also tick this to say allow participants to join any time, so it means they can join before 6 o'clock. I would always do that because it just allows, especially for a supervision session and one that you haven't got a waiting room, then I would always say allow participants to join any time. I also quite like to mute participants upon entry because it gives them the freedom to turn on their speakers when they're ready, but If you have people joining meetings who are not very technically au fait, then you might want to turn their camera and turn their audio on for them. And this is really helpful actually when you're working with clients who are not very technically au fait. You can automatically turn their camera on and their microphone when they join, which means they don't have to fiddle around trying to do it on their own device. So then we've also got some other things around recording and breakout, but I wouldn't use this for any of the sessions that we're doing. And you can also block or deny users in specific countries, and you can have an alternative host. So if you want to put somebody else's email address in here who can run the meeting on your behalf, you can put that in there. But actually anybody who's joining the meeting with or without a host, when it's not a waiting room, you can join anyway. So this is really, if you're using a waiting room, I would suggest putting an alternative host in there. Otherwise it's okay. So once I click save, then I have all the details. It will be, here's my meeting. I can then copy the invite link, so I can copy the invitation. That will then copy it to my clipboard, and you'll see also, because I have created it as a reoccurrence, it's saying every 2 weeks. It's given me all of the reoccurrences happening right up until the end date in June. So this is where you can then copy and paste, copy this meeting invitation, and then when you open up an email, just paste it into the email address and you've got that in there. So I cancel that. If I come back to the meetings, I can then see the upcoming meetings scheduled. So you can see, for example, I've got now I've got the fortnightly supervision that's been scheduled here, and I can start that meeting. When I go into Zoom, I should also be able to see that has now been created in here, and I can start it in my meeting section on the left hand side. And again, I can copy the invitation. So my preference would always be to do it through the web application version of Zoom, because you've got a lot more flexibility to change things like the reoccurrences. You've got a lot more flexibility on that. So I would always do it through the web version, and then it will pop up in your application. Hope that's helpful. Okay, thank you. Bye.